I'm looking into my crystal ball. I'm trying to see the future. Oh, I can tell you it doesn't look good. You ask me to be specific, perhaps. Well, what I can tell you is that all empires collapse and all species eventually go extinct. Now, where we are in that process, no one knows with certainty. I certainly don't. But I certainly see a great deal of signs around me that indicate that all species and our entire planet are in trouble. Big trouble. We really don't need a crystal ball for this. And I don't think we need more science or more information. We pretty much know. We know consciously and we know unconsciously. You know, Leonard Cohen wrote that wonderful song, Everybody Knows. And I believe everybody does know on some level the severity of difficulty that we're in. Now recently, one of my heroines, Naomi Klein, made a wonderful movie and wrote a wonderful book called This Changes Everything, in which she's asking people, she's pleading people to look at what's going on with the climate. And I certainly agree, let's look. And if we don't have particular tools to help us look, if we don't have specific kinds of emotional support to help us look, we're not going to. Because it's so much easier to deny. It's so much more comfortable to deny. My friend John Michael Greer says denial is an endlessly renewable resource. And so we resort to denial. And sometimes denial is useful and important, but not when we're talking about the withering and the dying of our planet. So what kind of tools do we need? Well, we need tools that help us deal, first of all, with fear. Because I would say that the first emotion we experience when we start looking at the truth of our situation is fear. And so my work is these days helping people develop some of these tools, and we do some work with working with fear, allowing it to be in our bodies for a short period of time and just practicing being with it, practicing standing back and being an observer rather than being swept away by it. Another emotion that we experience, if we have any awareness at all, is anger. We look at our predicament and we say, how can human beings be so stupid as to have created this nightmare? Maybe we're angry with ourselves. Certainly we're angry with corporations all over the planet who are polluting and making our lives unlivable. Not just our lives, but the lives of hundreds of thousands of species. Approximately 150 or 200 per day that are going extinct. Another emotion that we sometimes experience is despair. We feel like if we really look at this, it's going to be hopeless. As a matter of fact, it probably is. You know, I like the way that Stephen Jenkinson frames the whole notion of hope. Stephen Jenkinson wrote a book recently called Die Wise. He's a former palliative care worker. He spent a lot of his life helping people die. And he talks about hope. Hope in the face of what we know is certain destruction or certain death, he calls an obscenity. And so I help people kind of understand that they don't have to be hopeful. They don't have to be hopeless. They can actually be hope-free. How can you be hope-free? By looking at what's going on and surrendering the outcome. Well, that means you're going to have to deal quite deeply, sooner or later, with your own death and confront that whole issue. Now, we can't do that alone. So, another emotion that comes up, and I think is probably the really big one, is grief. Even in our fear, even in our anger, even in our despair, we feel deep grief because we're losing a planet, we're losing species, we're losing nature. And that means we're losing huge parts of ourselves. So In recent years, I've been doing a lot of grief workshops, which allow people to come together and grieve together. For some folks, that might sound like a morbid experience, but actually it's a very joyful experience ultimately. As people find out that their grief is welcome, as people have permission to go together into grief and come out on the other side, moving through their loss into joy and real connection. I think it's the beginning of the end of our myth of separation. So here we are. As I look into my crystal ball, things don't look good. But the question is, how do I want to live in the meantime? Who do I want to be? And specifically, who do I want to be with you? What do we want to do together? What gifts do we come here to give? That's where I am these days, on this beautiful Northern California October day. We don't know how many more we get to experience, but I'm enjoying the hell out of this one right now.